Hey, what's happening, all you beautiful people? Welcome back. We got a great episode of The Strange Road. I'm your host, Mikey, and always we got Bub riding shotgun today. And thank you to Stoner in Master Control, holding it down, making everything look and sound awesome. We appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We keep sharing, keep giving us those reviews. That's huge, super, super important for us. You guys rule. We have a fantastic guest here today, guys. We've been so stoked for this. Bub, I've been really looking forward to this one for you specifically.
Absolutely.
We have the Appalachian giant here in studio, TJ Owens, mechanic, photographer, machinist, and I would say experiencer.
You could say experiencer, not just a believer, but an experiencer sometimes on a daily basis.
So I would just lay the groundwork here. I met you at your, 160-year-old cabin?
Yeah, the cabin built in 1868.
Wow.
No, 1898. And it was relocated on its site in about 1983. My landlord's dear friends of mine, her great-grandparents built the cabin in 1898. And so I rented from them. My brothers and I would rent the cabin when it was more of a Airbnb type of thing.
Yeah. For
years. And then I had an offer to live there from them, and I've been there for about 7 years now.
Man.
My cabin sits, it's just a complete blessing. It's sits right surrounded by Wayne National Forest in southeast Ohio.
Man, it is unbelievable. And shout out to Mr. E and Jay from Cryptids of the Corn. They're the ones that invited me that day. It was not this past Mothman, but I guess it'd be the 2023 Mothman.
2023.
And I was coming into town, and they said, hey, we're going to be at this old cabin with our buddy TJ. You should stop by and hang out. So I'm like, haunted, old, weird cabin. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah, let's roll.
And I pull up, and I'm just shocked. I'm just, where am I? This is unbelievable. And we came up, and we hung out all night and laughed, and you have this incredible back porch that is sacred, man. I don't know how there's energy that flows back there, the view. I don't know what it is, but you told stories. Mr. E was telling stories. We were having a blast, and that was before Mothman Festival hadn't even happened. So that was my prime going into that. And some of you guys might have seen Mikey Goes to the Mothman video of the recap, but I didn't do any filming that night because we were just having such a good time.
Yeah, we really were, but you didn't stay. That was the thing. You didn't
No, I did not. I had an Airbnb, I had a hotel in Gallipolis across the way, whatever city that is from Point Pleasant. But Mr. E and J did stay. Yeah. And boy, England was not happy that next morning. That's all I got to say. And I think he told the story on our show the last time.
He probably did. He said, man, I'll burn it down. I'll burn it down. If I have, and he said, you didn't tell me about all the experiences you had at this cabin until after I unloaded my luggage.
I mean, you can't. Sometimes there's a lot, right? It's hard to really be like, oh yeah, and this and that.
Well, yeah, and it just over time that my stories sometimes will be going this direction and they'll just veer off. Yeah. But then I'll forget about things because it's been things that's happened to me ever since I was 12 years old, and I just turned 60, so I've got decades of things and. Got some dark years with marriage, divorce kind of thing, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever think sometimes, because I think this is one of the weirder concepts, is some of the larger stories I've ever had personally or heard personally, somehow they're in there and it takes the right combination of somebody saying something to that I literally remember, but on a day-to-day basis, I carry around a lot of things in my head and significant things that I don't think about.
Yeah.
And it's really strange. It's almost like they've happened, but I don't remember them until, again, like somebody has to enter a code of certain phrases. And then you're like, okay.
Yeah, there'll be that trigger word.
Right.
Or something. You'll see something, boom.
Right.
And
I think that's so cool.
Had that even happen here recently with Lisa and I, that just a trigger word. It's like, I've got another memory. I got another story to tell you.
Right.
About things that's happened.
Yeah.
So it's in there. And I thought, well, a few months ago, I actually had thought about telling my story not getting any younger. I just turned 60 in November. It's just like,
happy birthday!
Everybody in my age group dropping over dead, and it's just like I need to just go ahead and not to try to convince anybody of anything, but to tell my story, and to put my thoughts out there. And then out of the blue, Justin and Jay, they mentioned to me about going down to Knoxville, and then I thought about you guys. And it's just like, I don't know how to all work. I don't know how this, and things just fell in place.
And it just happened.
I didn't reach out to anybody, and it just happened. And so that was cool.
Well, that energy's out there.
Yep.
And some of you guys may listen to Tony Merkel's The Confessionals. Maybe this guy sounds a little familiar, but that's the trip to Knoxville you're talking about is you going down to Merkel Media and doing some podcasting with Justin and Jay and the whole crew. So, and that was a few weeks ago because weirdly, that's when, because you started liking a bunch of our Instagram reels that my nephew's been putting out, and you were kind of interacting in there, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I haven't let me hit up TJ, and we just started chatting, and you're like, and you mentioned you were on your way to Knoxville, but I didn't find out until today that you were actually on the Confessionals podcast. Yeah, I thought maybe you and Lisa were just on a trip or whatever. Yeah.
No, and I wasn't really going to say anything to you until we got here today to say, hey, I was with Jay. They said, hey, could you meet us in the Cincinnati area? We'll give you a ride down. Well, yeah, my brother lives in the area, sister-in-law, nephew. Met him there. Or they met me at my brother's house, sister-in-law's house. We left at 1 a.m. So here's Jay. He's driving the van to Knoxville 1 a.m. And it was awesome. We had a wonderful time down. And but it was somewhere in that time frame, you sent me a message. Said, hey, what would you think about coming up to Columbus well, sure, that sounds great. It'd be an honor to come up and do that. It'd be cool.
Yeah, we were just chatting. I was saying how much fun I had hanging out at the cabin, and we kind of had some back and forth. And then you said your son lived in Columbus. So, hey, man, if you're ever up here, let's hop in the studio and do an app.
Yep, my son's not far from here and his wife, and so that was going to work out real well. And I'm actually going to see him when we get finished today. Then we'll head out. He found a pizza shop that's close to their place. We'll stop and have a pizza on the way home.
Who's taller? Is your son taller?
My youngest son is 2 inches taller than me. He's 6'7". Jeez, I've got two boys, and Benny, my oldest, is my height. He's 6'5".
Good grief.
And I tell people every day, I said, I thank the Lord above every day that they came out boys because they'd been ugly girls.
I say the same thing about myself. This is the only thing that's going to work for me. Yeah. If I was a lady, it wouldn't work. Believe me.
And we've had necro images of you as a woman, and it's scary.
Yeah.
I think actually we did that in high school at one point for like a homecoming court or something. I think we dressed up in dresses, and I remember people being like, you don't need to do that again. Like those broad shoulders. I was like, sorry. Oh, man.
But Aaron's the tallest. I've got cousins that are 6'8", 6'7", that type of thing.
Yep.
Aaron and his wife now, we've got a grandchild on the way in March, a little girl.
Congrats.
They've had the ultrasounds.
Cool, man.
And the ultrasounds already, it's showing the baby being above average on height and weight.
Yeah.
Height and weight. Well, no fake. I mean, I told his wife, I said, you may have a 10-pounder in you. She said, it's one and done if it's 10-pound baby.
Man.
And so...
you really are the Appalachian giant. You think something to do with your genetics and why you're such a magnet for phenomena? Because this guy, I don't know if there's many people I've met that have more experiences than you.
It's just I don't know if it's like the Appalachian giant, Nephilim giant type of thing.
Yeah.
I think that DNA is still floating around.
Sure.
Out here. I know people that are much larger than I am.
Yeah.
And I've got family that's a lot bigger than me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's that bloodline or something in the bloodline being passed down. Yeah. My mother had experiences that she didn't want to have. Mm-hmm. She predicted the death of two of her nephews, one in the 1950s, one in the 1980s, and got a hold of and just begged and pleaded for them not to come down. The one in the 50s, don't come and see me and your Uncle Arlen tomorrow. Don't come down here. It was in Lawrence County, Ohio. And, oh, Aunt Mary, everything's fine. What are you talking about? No, I've seen your death. I just don't. And he got ran over by an 18-wheeler on the way walking down to Aunt Mary's and Uncle Harlan's.
Wow.
And in the 80s, I came in, I was late teens, early 20s, whatever it was. Mom's at the kitchen table crying her eyes out. Mom, what's going on? She said, well, Jim passed away. She called him the day before. He was in the Cincinnati area, her nephew. Begged him not to go to work. She said, you're going to die in a car wreck. And she saw it. And she said, I don't want to see this. She didn't want that. But Mom had abilities to see things like that. And I'm certain if she was still around, she's been gone 29 years now, I'd like to talk to her about those things. If there's something in that bloodline for abilities to see and to feel things, I don't know. But I do. I've had things happen ever since I was 12 years old. And ever since, all these years, from Sasquatch to spirits to paranormal to alien UFO type of experiences, and it does seem like things are attracted to me. Not only wildlife, but things in the spirit world are attracted to me. Even at where I work, I've even had there was a couple new hires that worked with. They didn't want to be around me because they said, man, they said, we've seen things around TJ.
Seen things around you?
Seen things in the spirit world. Yeah.
Okay. Like did they give a specific example?
A ghostly figure.
Okay.
Ghostly figure. Dark forms. Ghostly figures. And my soon-to-be, here and not too distant future wife has been, we work together. She's been at that facility for over 20 years. She's had experiences and seen things for a lot of years. And a lot of the senior staffers, I call them, people who have been there 15 or 20 years.
Sure.
They all have their stories. I mean, it's just incredible. But I do, it seems like things are attracted to me for whatever reason. If it's something in the bloodline, maybe my body odor. I don't know. I don't know if it's smell.
maybe you said it started at a young age. So
what happened when you were 12?
The keel part of like when you notice something and it notices you noticing.
Oh yeah.
Then it pays attention to you more. So
and I tell people too that
maybe you having that start early is why it built your whole life, and now it
may have been. Now at 12, you mentioned what happened when I was 12. That was when Mom and Dad would allow me to go bow hunting by myself. For us, it was a way of life. I only had one other person, brother, bow hunter, but everybody else with rabbit hunting, deer hunting, pheasant and grouse and that type of thing. So hunting and fishing was a way of life in southeast Ohio. And so I was walking distance from the house. I'd go out at 12. And one of the first times I went out by myself with my old Bear recurve bow, which I still have, an old Bear Kodiak hunter bow. Nobody taught me this. It just happened. I don't know how to explain it other than it just felt like the thing to do. It got daylight. I set my bow beside me, and I got down on one knee or two knees, and I grabbed the weeds and the brush around me in my hands, and I closed my eyes. And I was trying to feel everything underneath me, the roots, the rocks, the wildlife, trying to see how, trying to feel the earth underneath of me. And call it deep thought, meditation, whatever kind of term you want to use, but that's what I did. It just felt like the thing to do with my eyes closed. I opened my eyes, I heard a fluttering sound, and not 8 feet from me was a barred owl landed right in front of me.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, holy cow, that really happened. And I went to the woods a lot before I started hunting at 12. But in that same age range, I had a very abusive, not physical, but a very abusive brother, 7 years older than me. I'd just get out of the house, just go to the woods to get away from him. Go out, so many times go out and just go out and actually cry in the woods and just plead for help. Wow. You know, just talking to the woods, the Lord above, whoever's listening. And then my opportunity, it was the wildlife. I really feel that now. The older I get and I reflect back on that, they came to me. That first day, the first experience with the barred owl, then I'd have squirrels that come right up on my lap white-tailed doe. I'm hunting deer. I'd laid my bow down. I saw her. I started talking to her.
And they're like, hey.
Yeah, here. Let me position for a good lunge, good heart shot.
Jeez,
and I'd laid my bow down. I started talking to the deer.
That's cool.
And she came up, and I was able to touch her on her back.
That's cool.
She took off at a very rapid pace after I touched her, but I talked to her, and she just kept looking at me, and she kept coming closer, and I was able to touch her on her back. But the owls, the red-tailed hawks, those type of things. That's cool. How it all started when I was 12. And it's truly, I just feel blessed. And I think that's the connection. You talk about talking about bloodline or what it might be with these things coming to me. I don't know if it was the kind heart and soul of a child, myself at that age, and actually then trying to reconnect and ground myself. I really believe that's what it was, a connection with the earth and a kind heart. I think it all starts with that, a good, kind heart and soul. And so that's how it all started with me at 12 years of age.
Maybe some of that trauma really opens you up, too.
I think so.
You know, your brother bullying you or whatever happened to you that, you know, you were looking for something. You were really looking to connect and that really just, you know,
because I mean, we grew up in the Baptist church. I still got my faith, you know, but I'm more spiritual now than ever in my life. I don't go to church every Sunday, you know, but I still have that faith. But when these things happen, I might not understand it, but I accept it now. It's all for all these years. But I think those dark days as a child with those things, and I think it also formed out loud, I would say, I don't want to be like that ever in my life. I want to be kind. I want to be gentle and nice instead of like this person. And so that I do. I think that helped shape me who I am today.
I was about to say, like, all that time you spent in the woods where you said basically that was, not to put words in your mouth, but that felt like your almost religion at the time was getting out there and getting in tune with that.
Church.
Yep.
And I spent a lot of time by myself as a kid as well. And it's weird when you first start doing it because you're used to being around people and being in groups, et cetera. But after you're alone a long enough time, you start to understand how to be alone.
Yeah.
And how to kind of, it's weird, but it is a skill. There are a lot of people that if you leave them by themselves, they get a little wigged out.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know what to do. And it's like, turn inward a little bit, like self-reflect. Like you're saying as well, though, like, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be like that. Growing up, I never wanted to be anything. I don't want to be a rocket scientist or whatever it is. I just wanted to be a professionally good person, being nice to people, doing the right thing. And again, like, if I find something of yours, I want to get it back to you like I would want you to get it back, just whatever it is. But it's interesting as you started talking about that, I felt so many parallels. Not that I had animals coming up to me necessarily, but being in nature and kind of just grounding yourself and tuning in.
It's absolutely right. And I talked to people about some of my thoughts is you look at our Native Americans that were in this country.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have Starlink. They didn't have the technology we have around us right now. And my dad, I would always say this too about the Native Americans. So Dad, pick his brain. He was just a regular American Baptist. He'd claim he was just a regular American Baptist. and that was the only way, It was the only way. It was just you had to be this regular American Baptist. And I said, well, Dad, what about the Native Americans that weren't exposed to Christianity? When they would pray to the wind and this land, the Mother Earth, are they going to burn because they weren't exposed to it? I said, I don't think so. I think it was all maybe the same thing. Maybe the same thing that we're praying to. And but that's how it all started. Then I threw in a little head trauma. That probably didn't hurt anything. I was left for dead in a sledding accident.
Pardon?
Yeah.
What?
I don't even know if I've told Jay that story and everybody.
Was this? Did you? You weren't around Clark Griswold and he was spraying some of that super slick coating on your sled or what?
It was similar. My brother and I and the neighbor kids, 6 or 8 boys, 2 of the boys, their dad had a tire shop up the alley. They brought down a tractor inner tube on.
Oh, God.
There you go.
And man, we had a hillside. It had a hump at the bottom, a little creek we didn't want to go into, but that was our goal actually, to try to get to the creek. And so, man, we had it slick, and it was flying. The last thing I remember going down on the tube, going in the air, and then just out. I don't remember anything.
I've been there as well.
Yeah,
I woke up, and I'm covered in an inch of snow. I mean, it was still daylight when we were sledding. I'm covered in an inch of snow, and I didn't know where I was, who I was.
Everybody ran away,
and you were gone. I could see street lights, and I thought I saw the house. It was inside of my house, and it was like E.T. pointing home. Home. I knew home.
What?
I come in the house, just couldn't walk, froze to death. And my dad, where you been, boy? I don't know. My brother over here, he's in a quilt, got a cup of hot chocolate. He's nice and toasty warm. A day or two later, I'm in school, go back to school, and my buddy comes up to me in the hallway and says, "You're alive."
They thought
I said, "What happened?" He said, "Man, you guys went in the air and 3 people landed on your head." I said, "Well, what?" Nobody told Mom and Dad. We thought we'd get in trouble. I said, 12-year-olds get in trouble for a sledding accident.
So they left you for dead, literally.
They left me. I said, "Are you going to wait for the spring thaw to find my bones?"
Oh my God.
I mean, you might have died if you hadn't gotten up. I mean, like,
if I hadn't gotten up, and so that's I tell that was my left for dead story at that same time, 12, 13, whatever it was, and so then now my youngest brother, that didn't happen, didn't it? At a funeral about a year ago, friends of ours' father passed away. 2 of those boys were part of the group, and they confirmed it. They confirmed. I said, "There you go." Told my brothers, "There you go. There's proof." But yeah, you would think, go home. Hey, TJ's over here laying on the hillside out. We think he's dead. No, just let the snow, let the buzzards pick his.
And I'm baffled right now. I mean, he was with me when I got knocked out because we were mountain biking, and I did terrible at it, and I face planted into a bridge, broke my arm and split my chin and chipped some teeth and knocked myself clean out.
Yeah.
So I remember the flying through the air too thought of like. But everything slowed down to a just crawl, and I was watching that ground come, and this thought was just cycling so fast, going, "This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt." And then it was awake again, and that's weird when you come back too.
Oh yeah,
especially from that. Like I've had surgery and procedures where that's weird, but getting knocked out, I don't advise it either. But it's a weird kind of like reboot.
It really is.
It's like you're saying, like pointing, like that's all I knew was like that's where I need to go. And
I made my way.
Yeah, software was revving up, and
I survived it. But that was in the same time frame. But so there's at the cabin we have family get-togethers. I'll have a niece say, "Oh, tell me another story. Tell me the Left 4 Dead story." So I'll tell family members the Left 4 Dead story.
I'll tell you that'd be a great like childhood like Die Hard style like PG thriller is like the sledding.
Yeah. And so that happened, and I was 14 years of age when I had my first Sasquatch experience. That's when it all happened. So 12 years old.
What was that like?
Just absolutely incredible. Out of school for the summer.
Okay.
And I had ridden my bicycle down to a local pond to go catfishing that morning, real early in the morning, just daylight. The far end, left end side of the pond was very shallow, and I'd catch my bluegills for bait going after flathead catfish.
Nice.
And it was just a real narrow little, shallower place. And just right across from it was pine trees and the hillside and the ridge. And I'm catching bluegills, and I heard something in the woods. I thought, well, maybe I'll see a deer come out. That happened occasionally. But it didn't sound like a deer. It sounded like we were walking in the woods. Now I term it bipedal footsteps. And I saw something dark on the ridge. And I thought, well, it is a person. There is a person walking down there, coming down the woods. And it got closer and closer. It stopped at a pine tree, probably 12-inch, big mature pine tree, beside of that pine tree, and it couldn't have been, I'm going to say now, 40 feet.
Away from you.
Right there. Just the pond and a little bit of grass and the pine tree and the, the woods. 6 foot tall, 5.5, 6 foot tall, covered in hair, flat face, leathery looking face. Larger eyes than normal, what you would typical Bigfoot, Sasquatch look you see pictures of. It had hair hanging off the forearms that was that long. And it looked at me. It was there for probably a minute and a half. I can't remember the exact time frame. And it looked at me, and I'm just almost paralyzed. I see this thing. I'd been watching Leonard Nimoy on In Search Of back in the day. Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, everything. And it walked away. It turned and walked away. I grabbed my fishing poles and got out of there. I was just, at that time, I was just petrified. I was just scared to death of what I just saw. And on the way home, I thought, I can't tell the brothers. They're going to think I'm completely out of my mind, crazy. I didn't tell a soul.
Sure.
I held it in. About a month later, our school started back up. So I'm on the school bus, sitting back, and there's 3 friends of mine ahead of me. And I overheard the conversation of them talking about this 6-foot-tall, hairy, Bigfoot-looking creature 2 miles from there where they lived. They got off the bus, and I called them over, and the description matched. And then there was other kids that started talking about this.
Interesting.
My mom was in the kitchen about a week or 2 later, one evening, one night, and I'm in there talking to Mom, and her best friend, Loretta, and Teresa came in. Teresa was my age. But bawling and squalling, crying their eyes out. We thought that something terrible happened.
Sure.
That somebody died in an accident, something happened. Mom said, Loretta, calm down. Got her calmed down. I said, what's going on? She said, Mary, we don't know if we just saw a Bigfoot or the devil himself, was her exact words. They were coming to Mom's house, and there was a turn they had to make a slow down for. There was a cornfield on the left.
Sure.
And their headlights hit this creature standing there. It ran beside of their car in the grass, between the grass and the corn and the paved road, 20, 30 yards, and it just darted off into the corn. Well, my brothers were all up at that time. They heard this story, heard all the commotion. Oh, it was game on. Everybody's going to go out and get their guns and go shoot Bigfoot.
Oh, Jesus.
And I didn't want to, but I rode along with everybody. Nothing. There wasn't anything. And other people, her sons and her husband, things, everybody, there was half a dozen trucks out in the area looking for this creature. And being kids, and I've told this before, that then there was somebody in the group called it the Valley Monster because it happened in a valley, Pleasant Valley Road. And then there were other people then saw it in the area. Well, if you fast forward 40 years, I reckon 30, 40 years, I had a secretary where I worked at a local university, was telling that story to her dad. He was my boss for a lot of years. And he said, what year was that? She said, well, TJ said it was about 1978. He worked part-time at the sheriff's department at the time.
Oh, boy.
And he went out on 6 or 8 different calls in that summer.
Yep.
On this creature coming across people's property. They saw it beside of one lady saw it beside of her chicken coop. And so that's, at that point when I was 14, I just realized at that point we're not alone. We're not alone out here. And that's actually the very first sighting. After that, then I would go out in the woods again. I wanted to see it again. And I heard a few odd things. I don't know what they were, but I never saw anything again. The only thing I can say is that one time before daylight went out in that same area, and in a honeysuckle and the briars, I had a ground blind built that I would to hunt out of. And when I tell people it was something darker than the dark, it wasn't daylight yet, but I heard the smell. I smelled this terrible, terrible smell, and then heavy breathing. Within 10 yards of me, maybe, or something, I saw something darker than the dark large just went past. I couldn't really even hear footsteps, more of the breathing and the smell that I'd noticed more than anything.
Wow.
I don't know what that was.
That's common.
Yeah.
You smell them before you're going to see them.
Yeah. And so those were the experiences that opened my eyes to something that's not talked about a lot.
Right.
Back then, especially in a household like that, you didn't believe anything like that.
I want to ask you something about it, though, because you say, is that the only time you've ever physically seen a Sasquatch like that?
No, I've seen several since.
Okay, because I was wondering, you're saying it seemed like it was younger kids at the time were seeing this.
Yeah.
but also the size of it.
That's what
maybe it was a juvenile and it was feeling comfortable approaching you because you're not a grown man with facial hair, et cetera, at the time. Or I'm assuming you're probably fairly tall still at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe there was almost even a, hey,
we're
on the same level.
We're on the same level.
Right.
We're tall and lanky.
But you're on you're both kind of almost staring into this mirror that peers onto the other side.
Yeah.
That's weird. Good point.
And so, it certainly could be. It certainly could be. But that's what started it all for me.
Wow. And that's amazing.
It was just, like I said, I wanted to see it again. Never saw it again until, different ones until later. And there's been actually 3 at the cabin. And there was actually one of them. If you were out on the deck, you could have seen it.
That's what you were telling me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, please, come on, man, just come up and because it looks down. TJ's deck is. So you have your cabin's like built into the side of a hill, or in the front, the back is all open where it
drops down in the ravines.
Yes,
and there's a little path that goes out to where I have a gifting area, but this drops into a ravine. So the tall part of the deck is
you're up
7 or 8 foot off the ground.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's really cool.
Such a nice vantage point, right?
That's exactly it.
Even Jay made a comment. It's just like looking into Jurassic Park with hemlock trees and the brush and big timber.
Yeah.
And there's nothing between me and the highway, the 2-lane highway, for about 2 straight miles of just woods and swamp straight behind me. And there's actually a wetlands area back in there also. And it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing to be where I'm at. But there was a very large black one right there behind the cabin. Daylight hours. I tell people now I have as many experiences now in daylight hours as I did back, let's say, 10 years ago. And had got to a Bigfoot conference and got to meet a bunch of wonderful people. And I started going at night trying to have experiences again. And I did somewhat. I mean, there were several things that happened, but I have as many in daylight hours now as I did back then.
Yeah.
And I can sleep. I staying up all night long. Now, where I work, I'm on 3rd shift.
Yeah.
So I'm on the vampire shift, so I'm up all night. But actually in the woods, no, I don't have a need to go out and spend the whole night out there anymore. Mm-hmm. I really don't. Things happen.
You just got to walk out on your back porch.
And I don't try to attract them. I don't go tree knock and whoop, and I have no recorders, no audio, video,
and
nothing.
that could be.
I was wondering about that.
A reason too.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there's any correlations between each time you've had an encounter or this or that you can go, well, like I was fishing, I was hunting. Is there, obviously you're in the woods, but you're already there in the woods and even your house or where you're at. Yeah. So what are the commonalities you're finding when you're actually having those encounters to you? Because again, doesn't seem like you're really trying to draw them in. It's something again that you're doing is the right combination. It seems like, or
I don't try to draw them in at all. I go out and I tell people I'll go out and just, on the mornings that I can, if I'm not at work, and I can go out with a cup of coffee and listen to the woods wake up. Go out before daylight and listen to the woods wake up.
Oh, yeah.
And give thanks.
Cool.
Give thanks because I'm blessed to have the health that I have, the life that I can lead, and I don't have a giant pot of gold, and that means nothing to me. I mean, it really doesn't.
Yep.
And the commonality you're talking about is peace. Go out and there's times I'll go out and close my eyes and listen to the woods wake, and I'll think about the happiest times of my life.
Wow.
Just think about those things. And occasionally things happen. And I think that they give us experiences that maybe what we're capable of taking in at the time. I tell people that it'll happen when you least expect it.
Sure.
Go out here and, I want to see this big, hairy, giant creature, and I want to see a Bigfoot bed. And I've said that before, I think it adds tension to the air. They can feel that beagle laying over there on the ground, on the floor. He senses things that we can't.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. He can see things.
Oh, he knows when the show's over.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When we do shows, the moment we cut, he'll wake up and he'll look at us and stretch and be like, it's time to
Really?
He'll let us know.
Even now, he kind of knows we're talking about the show.
He's looking at me, hey, buddy.
Yeah, he's you're right on.
We grew up with beagles, but
that's what you're saying.
They really do. But that's been the common thing is usually I introduce Lisa to the woods, go out and just. I've got people say, you actually talk to the woods. Yes, I talk to the woods. I talk to the trees, the animals.
Absolutely.
It's the great spirit.
And it wasn't any time. She got 2 tree knocks in response. It happened. I can't remember exactly how long it was. And I'll tell people, too, sometimes a delayed reaction. You go out and introduce yourself or someone, and they're a believer. They have a kind heart and soul. If you can give us an experience, it would be absolutely incredible. If not, we're going to sit there and enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoy the cup of coffee. Enjoy the moment. And then when you have those things happen, get a tree knock, get a whoop, get a whistle, get a rock thrown at you.
Wow.
But yeah, it happens. You can't unsee these things. You can't unhear them. And but it's usually in a calm, very calm state. Don't go. And people that go out and do that, that's more power to you. If that's what you want to do,
Sure.
That's A-OK. I don't have any problem with that. I've been out with people that had all the parabolics and listening devices, had this and that. I don't need that, personally.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't need that.
Right.
And I just live my life. I'm blessed to be living where I'm at. I lived in a single wide trailer most of my life. Not growing up. We lived in a regular home. And to be in the woods, it's just a dream, and here it is. Even how I got the opportunity to live in that cabin is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I had been the landlords, they called me and said, hey, we've got some work that needs done there. It was a rental at that time. We've got 12 days that you can stay in the cabin. You can stay there for free, TJ, do the flooring upstairs.
A little quid pro quo.
Yeah,
I love it.
Beautiful. What
I
you
love
did,
it. That's
too.
the way it should work.
And
really made that place.
And so
shine.
I tear out this 30-year-old carpeting, put a floating floor down, and made an improvement.
Oh man!
But I'm there one night by myself, 10:30, 11:30 at night, out in the hot tub, giving thanks. Just absolutely incredible. They hadn't made me the offer to live there yet, and a blue ball of light, about the size of a softball, maybe a little larger. I saw it coming off the hillside.
What?
And here it came down to within just past, you probably saw the little wind chime whirligig thing out back, maybe 40, 50 feet away. And it stayed for a minute to 2 minutes, and it darted around, and I talked to it, whatever it was.
Moves through the trees like that.
Yeah, it's kind of open area right there. It wasn't really a tree. It didn't go between the trees, but just an open area. And then it was just gone. It didn't die. I didn't see it dart off. It was just poof,
just
gone.
went out.
But also inside of that ball of light, you could see twisty, turny,
like toroidal was
type
mixing
of colors
up
and things in it, and it was just gone. Well, I got out of the hot tub and I really gave thanks. Then I went up there and I said, "Please give me more experiences.
Wow!
I'll never photograph you. I'll never put an audio recorder, nothing out here, whatever you were." And let's say a day or two later, I'm out there doing work. I went to the car to get some tools. I came back, and I patted that cabin on the side, and I said, "Oh, buddy, I wish I lived here. I'd take good care of you." And the next day at work,
blown away.
The next day at work, I get the phone call from a landlord. "Hey, TJ, we need to talk to you." I said, "Oh, boy, no, we're pleased with the flooring. We want to make you an offer to live there permanently."
What?
That's awesome.
I had just talked to the cabin and said, "Take good care of you." Those things those are the type of things.
It happens.
Over the years, it happens.
Oh, it happens.
And that's how that all happened. So that was in the spring, and I had to wait until December, the first week of December, to move in. She had commitments for the rentals, different dates, people to rent it. The whole time praying that she didn't back out, and she didn't.
Wow.
And so the very first week of December, I was able to move into this incredible space. She said, "Well, what kind of furniture do I need to take out of there for you to bring your stuff in?" I said, "Well, I own a recliner and a bed."
Yeah.
So I said, you leave all your furniture. And she did. So I come into this incredible
It's
space
so
and
cool
history.
how it's decorated, just the vibe of it, the furniture. I mean, and it's like original photographs of the people that you have hanging up of like all the.
They were in her great-grandparents and her great-grandfather, wife, and children in that one photograph you saw in front of the cabin at its original location.
Yeah.
And they were very well dressed. Nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I asked her once, I said, most
curious.
people in the 1800s in Gallia County, Ohio, didn't have shoes on. They were standing in dirt and completely broke, dirt poor. And well, they had a gospel quartet. And in the dining room, there was a pump organ. And that was the pump organ. And that's actually where they practiced their gospel songs. And they got found out about. They did some local things. And there's a playbill there of the quartet, the Perkins Brothers Quartet. They got found out about it, and they traveled the country singing gospel songs at prohibition rallies. Oh, alcohol's the devil, And I mean, really, that's how they made their money. And they were at the 1893 World Fair.
Oh, wow.
And they had 2 cabins on display. And her great-grandfather took a pencil piece, he sketched. He loved that one type of cabin.
That's cool.
Came back, they had 500 acres, were originally set, which is now Wayne National Forest. They bought it from him. And him and his brothers and everybody pitched in, they built this cabin. It had pocket doors in it originally. Just this beautiful cabin for his family.
Pretty advanced for that time.
It really was. And
especially in a cabin.
And so I think that their spirits, I believe, are still there. And it's just
intertwined.
A very positive, incredible feeling, other than Jay wanting to burn it down.
Justin.
Or Justin. Yeah, not Jay. Jay did. It was Justin.
Well, we can just shift the blame to Jay.
We'll switch it to Jay.
Yeah. Sorry, Jay.
Well,
you always get...
when he gets touched.
Jay's pyromania.
Well, he said he got like a leg pull on on the blanket or something.
Yeah.
There's an upstairs to this cabin, and that's where the guest bedrooms basically are. But TJ has this dope, I don't know what to call it, like a Sasquatch altar to Sasquatch.
Well,
where you have
offering.
all of these.
I got my Sasquatch stuff there. I had a dear friend that's a beautiful artist, Sibylla Irwin in South Texas. And I've got a mask that she had made, and it's got real human hair on it, and another head that she had created. So I've got some pieces of Sibylla's that are just beautiful and dear to my heart. These are
very cool,
very neat pieces.
I took pictures of that, by the way.
Yeah, and there were some pieces from one autograph photo from Larry Batson. I don't know if you remember Larry, the animal guy in Indiana.
Doesn't ring a bell.
But Larry, he's passed, but he was a wonderful, wonderful individual. And so, I just kind of have, and also in that area, I have the things that have been gifted back to me, all the way from coins to bones, raccoon skulls and bones, different things. And the gifting side of things is a pretty incredible thing all in its own. Years and years ago, I used to, with food, peanut butter, apples, fruit, different things. There's so many animals in the woods can come and get that. It's kind of hard to, when a jar of peanut butter comes up missing, well, a dog, anything could have carried it off. But when it comes up missing and it comes back 2 weeks later completely empty and cleaned.
What?
Yes. And it's got, on the top of it, you can see teeth marks that are wide, flat teeth.
Oh, my God.
You can see the teeth marks of like a coon and possum. They almost puncture.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
But wide, flat teeth marks across the top. But it comes back, and I'll screw the lid down tight. So, I've heard people say that coons have opposing thumbs. Well, I want to see them unscrew a lid of a peanut butter. But maybe they can.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't think they're bringing it back for the deposit.
They can open up a cooler and get your hot dogs and hamburgers. Yeah. They've done that out at Obachi State Park. They had a coon infestation for years out there.
Oh, we always got something stolen. Hot dogs, marshmallows.
Yeah.
Every time we camped there.
Yep, every time.
And so I started on my stump I had at the time. I thought, well, let's try some different marbles, little toy car, different inanimate
something non-food
And
driven.
this is before you moved into the cabin?
No, after.
This is while you're in the cabin.
Yeah, while I'm in the cabin.
Copy.
And so I go out and I put a quarter, a nickel, a penny, and a dime. Nice shiny coins across the top of that stump. And it lay there for a few weeks. Nothing happened. And I came back out one day and the coins are stacked. They're stacked on top of each other. There's nobody out there. You know what it's like. It's just, there's no hiking trail. There's nobody out there. I thank them, talk to the woods. I lay them right back down in the order they were. The next morning, I get a cup of coffee coming out onto the deck, and they're lined up on the deck, the coins. And I go out there to look, and sure enough, it was the same coins. They were gone. How does that happen?
Now, question: do you think that it's Bigfoot, Sasquatch? Do you think it's the orbs? There's so much there. It seems like, how do you put a finger on it?
It is. It's hard to put a finger on the exact thing of what's actually doing it.
Right.
But I felt like it was the Sasquatch people. I really do doing that.
Okay.
The one in particular, an event that happened, I was at work and I got a call from a friend. TJ, do you know where the lake is down in Lawrence County from you? Yeah. There's 1,000 acres down there around this small little lake that Wayne National Forest owns. A friend of hers, their property comes up close to that. Daylight hours saw a female Sasquatch cross her driveway in front of her. Scared to death, just wanted to see if anybody could come out and do anything. Well, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll just go out to that lake. Won't go to their property. She didn't want her name to be known or their exact location. And there's no hiking trails. It's brushy. It'd been good grouse country to go grouse hunting in. So I'm up on the hillside. I found a nice stump or log to sit on. And I close my eyes and I just start talking to the woods. And I got a big tree knock in response to my left. So I go that direction. And here's this beautiful rock overhang I'd never seen before in my life. It's just beautiful. I sat down to enjoy that. Nothing else happened. And before I left, there was a downed tree, and I had a Hershey bar in my pocket, my shirt pocket. And I left a Hershey bar, and I told him, here's the only thing I have to gift you. Well, anything can take that. Mm-hmm. But I came back the next day after work, daylight hours, 4:30 in the afternoon. Beautiful sunny day, and the Hershey bar is gone, and there are 3 wild onions pulled up by their roots and laid in its place right on the log. And that was still goosebumpy. That was
I just got chills.
That was one of the most incredible gifting return gifts I've ever had in my entire life. That was awesome.
Yeah,
it really was.
I don't know what to say. Like that's it's. I really am perplexed. I think there's something going on there that is very unique.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard anything like it, actually. Yeah. You know what I mean? Obviously, the back and forth, but to get that point of...
Oh, we're still
We're bartering now with onions for chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm down with it. It's just...
And we're not even halfway through this episode yet.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
amazing.
And then at that point, it's like, well, I got into the cabin. It's like, well, maybe if I ramp that up and take them different things. And I've had a lot of things brought back to me as a gift, laying out here with coins or bones or whatever it might be. I haven't had any more wild onions or ramps or anything brought to me. And then, but I can go for 6 or 8 months and nothing happens.
Yeah.
I just live my life. I come in, fix my meals, keep the place warm, cut the grass in the season. There's not that much grass, mainly moss, and just live my life. And you can go for even jars of peanut butter. When I was leaving food gifts, jars of peanut butter would be there for 6 months and not be touched. So just kind of come and go. It's not like it's like, well,
it's not a all the time thing.
Not an all the time thing, but the experiences though there seems to be ramped up, especially and completely honestly with Lisa moved in with me now. She's got Cherokee blood. Her grandmother was Cherokee. There's something in that bloodline because now when we took off to Tennessee recently, between the cabin and Batavia there at Cincinnati, 27 different red-tailed hawks that we got to see. We counted them, and she got to photograph several of them. And one of the most incredible experiences, that trip on the way down was within just a few miles of the exit, not the exit, but the road to go to Serpent Mountain, Route 73. A juvenile bald eagle. At first, we couldn't tell if it was a buzzard or not. Got close. It's right in a tree off the side of the highway. And I look to make sure we're not going to get rear-ended, and I hit the brakes and pull over. And she got to photograph it several times. It would fly away, and it came back over top of us several times. It's just like it knew. I don't know if it knew me or maybe her bloodline. I think that there's a connection in that Native American bloodline. Have you guys seen the video of a man at a football stadium here in the country? A bald eagle come flying in and landed on a Native American man right beside him. Have you
That's
seen it?
wild. No.
Yeah, you can. I tell people, Google it.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when some Native Americans were protesting out west, I don't know if it was a pipeline or something, and an eagle came flying up and landed with them.
Dang.
It's like there's a connection there that they feel. But yeah, when it comes to a notebook of, well, this works, leave an apple, leave an apple pie, or no, there's no pattern. I was trying to form patterns. I would write the dates on these peanut butter jar lids, and I would log stuff. And at one time I was trying to form some. Is it full moon? Is it barometric pressure? Anything. There's no pattern. I couldn't form any pattern with anything. So I don't worry about that anymore. I just let it be. I just live my life there. They sometimes, whatever it is, whether it be a Sasquatch or something in the spirit world, or maybe that's the same realm, because I'm talking about dimensions too.
Yeah.
This interdimensional type of thing. Whatever you want to term it, from this realm or dimension or the other. Yeah, I think I truly believe when they cross over, that's when we catch glimpses of things. Modern science, you hear about parallel universes. Yeah, I think it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Do you think that's where they come from?
I think they have that. Yeah,
ability to access
I think they're there, and then have this ability to hide, to disappear. It's not a standard issue critter, I tell people.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
If you want to go hunt a white-tailed deer, a black bear, or a moose, there's a technique. If you want to go find something to take a picture of, even a snow leopard, there's a technique. There's no technique. I just tell people, just open up your heart, be kind, and you might be really shocked or surprised at what comes in to see you sometime.
Right.
And it might not ever happen once in your life.
Yeah, fair point.
It really, and just a glimpse, just like that, just a glimpse.
I wonder how many people, I've always said this too, of, how many people had tree knocks happen, didn't know it? How many people saw something, didn't know it? How many people were in proximity, didn't know? Like, how close are we to some of these things sometimes, or actually have a phenomena happen that we're just not aware of because we just don't interpret it that way or have the tool set to understand what occurred, you know?
Yep. And I had a gentleman that we work with came in one night, and he said, TJ, coming down Route 7, 10 o'clock at night, and he's got Native American in his blood, so he's a believer in a lot of things. 8 to 9 foot tall Sasquatch came across the highway. This was just 3 months ago.
Wow.
In front of him. He said, there's 1 or 2 strides and it's over the guardrail.
Oh, sure.
And he said, long hair hanging off his full stride. And that's the only time he's been a believer, but that's the only, it's like, well, that experience was given to you for a reason.
Right.
That you know now. You know now. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
But the flesh and blood side of it, yeah. But only when they want it to be, you know. I think for me it's more spiritual.
Yeah, and the book, this Psychic Sasquatch, is based off of that. That guy never recorded any audio, never had any real proof. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, whatever, man. Yeah. It's a fascinating book, but there's no evidence that he can bring, because that would have ruined this connection and relationship with the creatures that he was communicating with. Right. Basically, what he claims is telepathically. Yeah. We actually met his ex-wife, I think now, Kelly Butterfly. Shout out to her, but we actually met her through Tom and Terry. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, has our mutual friend B. Mills ever tried to get you to... to come out to.
Well,
because you promised the land that you wouldn't set any equipment up, and
B and I have been dear friends for a lot of years.
Yeah,
and maybe once years ago she offered to bring a recorder or something.
Yeah,
but B's been at the cabin several times. B has been touched. We had some people from Mansfield there doing, friends of mine. They want to do some paranormal research.
Yeah.
So I just talked to the house and everything. Hey, I've got friends coming. They're dear, kind friends of mine. They are, there's nothing negative about this. They're going to set up devices that you can communicate with us.
Yeah.
And she was touched. She was physically touched on her shoulder.
Yeah.
She talks about that. So she's been there several times. But, there was a lot of people over the years that had, you need to set up recorders and this.
Yeah.
And I don't think that even me getting audio, well, there's thousands of hours of audio out here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at, like, Ron Moorhead, the Sierra sounds, and those kind of things.
Right. Yep. To me, that's some of the most compelling
it really
evidence,
is. It's incredible.
Period.
And I've had that just about 3 to 5 miles away on Sims Creek, where I used to go in the evening time and at night, sometimes during the daylight hours. I've had those same sounds right behind me. Mm-hmm. That same samurai chatter, Sierra type sound, like in a brush right behind me.
Wow.
And that was the day when that happened, was when sitting on the creek bank, daylight hours after work, summertime, no trails, no hiking paths right there where I'm at. And the best way to describe what I saw in the tree and coming down the tree was the predator, that translucent.
The cloaking?
Thing. Yeah.
Sure.
This translucent figure coming down the tree. I said, I see you.
Yep.
And I didn't hear it cross the creek, but then I heard it come in the weeds behind me, brush, 3 or 4 foot tall brush, making those Sierra sound type of noises and language.
They're like clicks and chatter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And coming down the tree, I heard the clicking. Mm-hmm. And then in the brush, I heard those, some people call it Scooby-Doo chatter, samurai chatter, Sierra sounds.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like directly behind me. And then it stopped. And I've heard the clicking sounds at the cabin before at night. But those type of things, I think some of these movies that have been produced in our lifetime.
You're right where my brain is right now.
It's kind of based on experiences people have had.
You're absolutely right where I'm at, because I'm thinking of Predator. I'm thinking of the movie Signs.
Yeah.
Where the noises were these clicks and but it couldn't speak, and it was trying to reiterate them in Predator. The Cloaking.
Yep.
Bruce Maccabee talks about the same thing. His wife saw the cloaking out in the woods that time. She photographed it.
Yep.
The camera wouldn't even have the correct resolution. I mean, you're freaking me out right now. Like, that's amazing.
In northern Ohio, probably 10 or 15 years ago, I was helping friends on a little home project. And they had experiences up there. And I was out at an area up there, probably 2 in the afternoon. They took me out to where they had experiences. And here is maybe 50 yards out along that pretty good-sized creek. And you can see the creek, it made a turn. On that corner was something red and hairy looking, just a form. Didn't look like a Sasquatch or a bear or a wild boar. But then it turned and you could see that thing, and it looked like a red Sasquatch. I mean, just that, and it's all for several seconds. And then in a blink of an eye, it's a white-tailed doe.
Sorry.
The red form was completely gone. Now, whitetails will get kind of reddish tone to them in the summer.
Sure.
But not long, red, dreadlocky looking hair.
So you're saying basically it kind of transformed its form to cloak itself as a deer.
Yeah. And it stared straight at me.
This is really blowing my mind because of all the stuff that's going on right now with
not deer,
the UFOs, and how it looks like a drone, or it looks like a UFO, or it looks like an airplane, but it's not really an airplane. This transmutation, this form shape-shifting type stuff of. And again, with the plasma balls around the house, or whatever they are, the blue ball that you saw, that's why I said, do you think it's one or the other? Is it all this? Like, because I'm wondering, because I keep listening to these shows about, well, there's so much plasma in the universe, and most of what we can't see is plasma and dark energy and all this. We're swimming in this. We're swimming in that other reality all the time, and whether it has enough juice in those spaces to manifest into something, I think is. Again, I don't think it's going to happen here. Again, we're not going to see a Bigfoot sighting probably on Broad Street here or Parsons, whatever. But in those areas where it's a little richer with that energy and that ability, that's the.
I have a dear friend of ours that we work with is from Thailand.
Oh, great place.
He's been here in this country for a lot of years now. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. We talk about, not about Sasquatch or things, we talk about energy a lot.
Yeah.
Just sitting there at night, you got third shift going on, and we're doing our checks and things. And we talk about the earth and the energy in this earth. It's just like the energy that's so different in the crater at Serpent Mound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, concrete and pavement, and look at all this in the city.
Cover it up.
Blocking this energy.
Absolutely. It's a cap.
Yeah, you look at a road map of the state of Ohio, and it's like a spider web of roads, pavement and concrete.
Yeah.
And it's all around this earth, for a lot of it, maybe not as concentrated as Ohio, but that it affects the energy of this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that where the cabin, I'm surrounded in basically a U-shaped ravine.
Yep.
There's a natural spring right above me with water, and I've had a Native American lady tell me about the bedrock and the water has something to do with that.
Absolutely.
Also. And
reminds me of Serpent Mound again.
Serpent Mound again. Yeah. And at the summer solstice celebration years ago, they talked about there was a survey done. And I don't know, like 2030. Natural springs are coming out of that Serpent Mound area.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tremendous amount of water coming out of that area.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's our buddy
Well,
Jeffrey.
I know there's one down the street from the Serpent Mound.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But there's
I didn't know there
another
were
one.
that many popping out of there.
We brought Ryan Singer when we brought Ryan Singer to meet Tom and Terry, and then Jeff brought us to Fort Hill, and then he brought us to a different spring, and it's right down the road from Fort Hill, but it was running dry. There was no water coming out, and that freaked Jeff out.
Oh yeah.
He was like, "There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
This spring has never been dry.
Yeah.
You'll come here in the dead of winter, the dead of summer, that spring is always flowing. There was no spring." I was like, "Oh, this is a bummer." And we're just looking at each other like, but there's so many in that area.
Interesting.
There really is.
But I didn't know that you knew Thomas until recently as well.
Yeah, I met Thomas several years ago by myself. I down at Serpent Mound and wasn't there. I stopped by the rock shop.
Yeah.
And got to talk to him for about an hour. Had a couple other people with me. And talked for about an hour. I'd never met his wife, Terry. We had chatted on Facebook a little bit. Then I got to meet Terry for the first time, Thomas. And just incredible people.
Yeah.
Incredible people. They really are. I cannot thank them enough for the hour and a half we were there, whatever it was, talking to them about things. They're just wonderful, wonderful people. And that's the thing about, there's a lot of Bigfoot type of events I don't even go to anymore. If there's a particular person I'd like to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
One of them was Tom Powell years ago. Got to meet Tom Powell, incredible individual and speaker. And the other one was at B. Mills' event there at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot conference at Camp Odeokwa. I got to meet and talk to for about an hour was Igor Burtsev from Moscow.
Cool.
Oh.
And man, Igor was
Yowie
awesome.
researcher.
And he said, I like you, giant man. That's what he called me.
I like you, giant.
Giant man. And so I'll chat with Igor every now and then. But Kelly, and you mentioned Kelly, and I think it used to be, was it Lasperitis? Was that her name? Something like that?
Yeah.
With the spiritual.
Yeah.
I saw Igor was there one year, and that's one of the conferences I wanted to go to, and I told Lisa, we'll go there someday.
She used to have the Psychic Sasquatch Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't pronounce his name. The gentleman that wrote the book Psychic Sasquatch, Kanawawi.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've read it a bunch of times, but we actually met Kelly through Tom and Terry.
Yeah. Now there's a gentleman that's going to be at the Star Knowledge event that's from out in that neck of the woods. I think he goes by Sunbow True Brother.
Oh, yeah. Terry was telling me about that the other day.
Oh, he has incredible experience and thoughts. He really does. And I've chatted just a couple of times with him on Facebook, not a whole lot, but I'm really looking forward to get there and to talk to him and meet him.
Yeah.
And so there's individuals out there that have helped me open my mind to different things.
Yeah.
Or point me in maybe a little different direction, getting away from gifting of food and things and gifting different things. The same trip when I was doing home repairs up in Northern Ohio.
Yeah.
Been packing plywood the day before. My back shoulders were killing me. I woke up the next morning, my right shoulder was just killing me. I said, oh, Lord, just give me a cup of coffee and ibuprofen. Let's get through this day. And then it just immediately felt like one of you guys grabbed my shoulder. I could feel the grip on that shoulder and warmth. And the pain just went away. Thank you, Lord, to whoever's doing that. And bloop, my phone went off. There's a text message from a friend of mine, lived in, at that time, I believe she was in Asheville, North Carolina, that opened my mind a lot to the spiritual side of things. She said, did you just feel that on your right shoulder?
Shut up. What?
I said, what is that? She said, well, I woke up and I had that feel. I hadn't talked to her 6 or 8 months. She didn't know what I was doing. And she said, I've been working on my long-distance Reiki healing. And I said, man, you got to tell me more about this. And so that's what opened my mind to healing abilities. Mm-hmm. And there are people out there, pretty incredible. And I got to experience something, me personally, with about 6 or 8 different women around the country work through me to help heal a little girl. And it was just incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. She had lost one eye to cancer. The other had cancer in it. And after this, they said, you just need to touch her. And I had made contact with them just a few miles from the cabin. And when I was leaving, I gave her a hug, and it felt like static electricity.
Sure.
And then she kind of jerked back, and then she held me tighter. And her dad said, hold on to him. Hold on to TJ and don't let him go. And I still, this day, I haven't told him a word about it. It's a dear friend of mine. He just knew something was going on. And you've probably if you've ever gripped an electric fence, you feel that. A lower, milder version of that. She could feel that, and I could feel as I held her tight. Not the initial zap like the wintertime now, static electricity. And it was just incredible. And the hug lasted 30 seconds or something. She didn't want to let go. And just a few days later, with probably my guess is here in Columbus, the James Cancer Center somewhere, there was no cancer in that eye. It was gone.
Jeez.
And it's like, because when I first saw the post on Facebook, man, I cried. It's like, here's my buddy's little girl.
Yeah.
This little kid, 5, 6 years old, whatever she is, she's going to get through life with no eyeballs. I got to do something. And I just prayed and cried. What can I do? I'd give my own eyesight for her. And it happened.
Yeah.
I can't, and I'll probably, he doesn't need to know the story. She's got her eye, she's living her life. She's running around just a wonderful little kid.
Yeah.
And maybe the day will come that we talk about things.
Yeah.
But it was just these women around the country that when I made contact, and the person we mentioned earlier was a big part of it with me, and they said, we'll work through you. And they did. And so I don't have a doubt in my mind anymore about people that are healers. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So you're an empath.
I've felt a lot of things.
Yeah. Like just what you're saying about the girl and how you're like, I'm taking her perspective and what would it be like. And I get that line of sight because it's something you can't turn off.
No, you can't turn it off. And it was truly, when I prayed and I cried, it was real.
Yeah,
I said,
for sure.
I've lived my life. I'll give my own life for her.
Yeah. Well, and I say that because I know people that don't have that. They're not empathic, and it's something that you can't fault them for because I'm not sure it's really like something they can maybe learn or not. I don't know. Maybe it's how you're wired, but and I don't think they're bad people. They just don't feel the same way we do or feel other people the same way. Yeah. Or situations or energies, but It is. You're like an antenna walking around. So when you get in close range of strange or high weirdness, I'll bet you start buzzing like
I can feel
clock
things,
tower.
and I've got a friend in Mansfield that, boy, she can see things from a distance, but I'm not like some of those things. I can't do a lot of those things. But I woke up one morning, and it felt like you guys took a baseball bat and beat me. Yep. I mean, I couldn't hardly breathe. It was hard to walk, even sit up. I was in so much pain. And immediately, bam, I thought of one person. I thought, I've got to contact them. It just came to me. So I got on the phone and Facebook, sent a message, and asked them how they were doing. And that's all I said. How are you doing? And they come back, not well. Said, I was T-boned in a car last night at 55 miles an hour. I'm at Riverside Hospital with broken ribs and busted up pretty bad.
Jeez.
I felt that.
Damn.
Just out of the blue, I just felt it. So, yeah, I have been over the years, and the older I get and my priorities narrow down and change, and knowing that this old flesh isn't going to be here on this earth a whole lot longer, it changes, at least for me, it changes my thought process.
Absolutely.
And so, I have felt a lot of things, and sometimes I'll send out, I always say my little prayer every day and give thanks, even to help a troubled soul, even if it's a kind word. So there's many times I'll just send somebody a message just to check on them. Yeah. Maybe I haven't talked to chat with them for 6 months.
Yeah.
Just have that gut feeling to send a message to them.
You were saying it was your mother earlier who had that kind of crazy foresight. Oh. Sounds like you have a touch of that, not to the same degree, but you're kind of... She was going and prognosticating. You're getting the actual real life data impact, kind of psychically, energetically, whatever we want to put a term on there, sent to you. Yeah. And then you're like, whoa, I wake up and I feel this way. And
I feel this way. And I tell people, I go with my gut feelings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And
I feel that.
Whoa. You can, I can ponder on it probably till the day that I pass, and maybe not understand it all, and that's okay, because I know that and the power of prayer is an incredible thing. I've had things happen. One thing in particular with my oldest son that just you can't make up. It happened, and he had been born down in Gaddy County, and the day after he was born, they brought him in for his mother to nurse, and he'd passed, had a BM, and so I pulled the diaper off and it's all blood. When he was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and he was just as blue as an alien. Well, they got that in black color, came back. He had 4 movements like that in his diaper before Lifeline got there, and blood was running out of his diaper.
Oh, my God.
White as a sheet. They couldn't already detect a heartbeat. Oh, scary. Lifeline nurse got the IV started.
Yeah.
And my Uncle Check was a Methodist preacher, C.J. Limley. And Mom was there, Dad was there, the wife, and the chaplain of the church. And Uncle Check led us in prayer around that baby before he took off in a helicopter. So just a very few-minute flight here to Children's Hospital Columbus. But then it's about a 2-hour drive for us.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking we're going to show up and the baby's gone. And the Lifeline nurse came out in the lobby when we got there and said, Mr. Owens, I don't know what happened, but after we took off, his vital signs started coming up, his color, his heartbeat. I said, well, I can tell you what it was. Just as plain and simple as I can put it was the power of prayer. And it healed him. It just, and there's been a couple things like that in my life that's happened.
Yeah.
That kind of gets my faith back in tune, stronger than ever, but knowing that this other stuff, it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. I used to talk to Dad about he would talk about the giants in the Bible.
Yep.
Yeah. It's there, the Nephilim.
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject when it comes to that. Yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of people I've been made fun of and criticized a lot in my life, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's times like this I really felt the need just to tell my story.
Oh, man. It's incredible.
Well, and you're kind of one of the people that we've speculated about a bunch of times that say you haven't gotten your story out. Like we talk about all the time, for everybody that has an amazing story, a Sierra Sounds, a Gimlin film, or whatever, how many aren't coming forward? How many are like, I'm just not sharing this, or I didn't record it, or I made this kind of like pact with myself and energy around here that, I'll experience it with it, but I don't need to catalog it and bring it back and kind of have proof, but it's giving you that self-proof that sustains it in a certain sort of way.
Yeah. And
just telling the story, keeping it alive. You're not somebody that we need to have evidence brought into the studio. We had, we had Jesus Pion Jr., Gonzo from Breaking Bad. He brought us all kinds of photographic evidence of these things looking through his tent. And just blew our minds. And it's so you have, but there's like Tom. Tom's very similar. Like I get the vibe of you guys very similar. Where Tom has his geology. He'll show you proof about the crater and all this stuff, but a lot of it's experiential. And I don't need to have proof to sit here and enjoy all of these incredible stories that you have. It's just, to me, it's just as valid, and more people I wish would speak up.
Yeah, and it's I hear people talking about a great awakening that's on the way. Yeah. And people have talked about that for probably hundreds or thousands of years. So I don't know if there's an exact date of anything, but, and I mean, people have predicted this is the end of time and it's gone and passed. So I don't have any kind of wild predictions like that, but it seems like that more and more people are starting to open their eyes to things and the power of positivity. I tell people that too. Positivity attracts positivity. And negativity, I mean, you can, when you open yourself up to, call it deep thought meditation, clearing your mind, there's bad things out here that can slip in. Sure. And that's why I always tell people, I say my little prayers.
Got to stay grounded.
Because there's evil out here. The one thing that I didn't tell Justin before he unpacked his luggage at the cabin until he got there was when this basically a hairless creature that came out of the fog onto my roof at the cabin one evening. The Lord of the Rings creature.
Gollum?
Yeah.
Schmeagol?
Yep. This little 4-foot long, gangly looking thing, fog, real thick fog coming up the valley towards the cabin. I'm up at the edge of the woods or in the woods. So I get some phone signal. Well, this is cool. And I was trying to figure out how I could get a good picture of it, and there wasn't. It's 10 o'clock at night, 9, whatever it was. And that fog got right up to the cabin, and something came out of that fog onto my roof, and it scurried on all fours right up the roof. You could hear the claws scurrying up the shingles. And then poof, it was just gone. And Justin said, "You didn't tell me that until I unpacked my luggage." I said, "No." I said, "I didn't want to scare you off." I said, I went and I immediately got my dad's, after Dad passed, I got his Bible. I got my dad's Bible and I did some prayers and forbidding anything evil to be at this property.
Yeah.
You felt that it was evil.
Yeah, I felt that it was evil.
Interesting.
What gave you that feeling?
It happened so quickly and so a crazy looking thing.
What would it look like? Like, what would you describe when you say a hairless animal?
A hairless human.
Hairless
human. Just like us, no clothing, kind of a humpback and skinny on all fours, just scurrying up the roof line. Yeah, not an animal, but a hairless, just a human.
Did it notice you?
No, it didn't look at me. I have a lot of things, whether it be a barred owl, bobcats, things, deer, that'll look straight at me as I'm talking to them as they come closer.
This thing just was there and gone.
Just up and gone. It's like, what did I just see?
What did its skin look like?
What's that?
What did its skin look like?
Just a real pale.
Yeah.
Pale whitish tan skin. And just odd. Very, very odd and spooky. And it's like, this ain't right.
Ooh.
I don't know what this is.
You ever heard anybody else with a similar encounter, experience,
I had a friend that once showed me a video. She said, "No, you're going to see this. There's a thermal imaging video.
Okay.
And you'll see a rabbit. And there's two things come across the screen, and I'm not going to say any more. And I can rewind it, slow it down, whatever you need. It was in another state. It wasn't in Ohio. And here's a rabbit, plain as day. Heat signature, there's a rabbit.
Right.
It goes out of frame. It goes out of the picture. And these two creatures come across and ran across in front of that same area where the rabbit was. That had a humpback, big whipped-looking tail, and these scrawny little front arms and legs on the front of these things as they went past. And she rewound it and slowed it down. And I said, it looks like some kind of a demon dog, this long snout on this thing. They had no heat signature. Zero, cold. It's like, that's something in the spirit world that just came through and showed itself. I don't know how it was picked up, but there was no heat signature. And I'll leave the person and location completely nameless.
Right.
And wow. I said, I don't even, no words other than it's not in our realm right now.
Yeah.
You know, it can come over.
Yeah.
There's a rabbit glowing like a beacon.
Right.
With its heat.
So after this one-off, did you have you had any more encounters with what you would call a negative force or energy?
Nothing negative at all.
Interesting.
Even though there might be creaks and pops, and maybe things happen in the cabin at night, and even inside of the cabin with a little girl that I have seen. But it's very, very positive, the things that I have seen and experienced right in the cabin.
Well, the empathic gut feeling type nature that you have, again, like you can have these experiences, and I think Mikey was even trying to ask you, like, what gave you that? And it's like, I don't know, sometimes you felt this way or you felt that way. It's just instinctual.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm sitting on the couch one time several years ago. I had a friend in Virginia that had passed away. And an incredible individual, Bill Dre Guinness was his name, and wanted to come up to the cabin so bad. He's fighting cancer. He wanted to go to Serpent Mound, never been Serpent Mound. He did. He had some of the most incredible Bigfoot experiences I've ever heard. Did research on Lake Champlain.
Very cool.
That, and he was just, I mean, I can't say a single bad word about him. And we got to spend a few hours talking together and in chat, but I got to see him in person a couple times. And when I got word that day that he had passed, like, holy cow, he said, get the cancer licked. And he said, I'll come up, spend some time. We'll go to Serpent Man. We'll talk about things. And the day he passed, and I had someone there with me, sitting there at the couch, daylight hours, and I was tearful. There's a lot of emotions going on. Bill said, come and see me someday. I said, the other thing was, I said, I will do a drumming for you at Serpent Mound someday in your honor. And there was a red ball of light about the size of a ping pong ball, maybe a little bit smaller, straight up in the flooring. It's just open rafters. You see, what it's like. That red glowing ball, just as bright as an exit sign, just came floating straight over towards the corner where the wood burner was. As soon as I said, Bill, come and see me someday, I think there was a connection. I don't know what else to say about it, but Bill heard me. That's the way I feel. That's my gut feeling. And enough things like that have happened. It's just like, what? I just accept it now. People say, well, it's like the time at Sims Creek I saw, called a mountain lion, cougar, whatever you want to call it, full-on big cat in the brush, in behind the brush. I heard the growling first, and I backed up. And I could see her going through, her tail as long as her body. And she had I say her because there were 3 little ones behind her. This is in Gallia County, Ohio.
Wow. You think there's cougars?
I saw her, and it's just, there was no way to get a photograph, but it was just so thick, and I caught that glimpse of her coming through an opening. It's like, wow, big cat.
It's interesting. You got my brain thinking of so many things about what you just said there, of like, not just even on the Sasquatch kind of mystic side, but even just on the terrestrial side of real animals too. Again, we've kind of stamped and put our mark everywhere, and we're taken of, and all the animals get out of town, but we think, they all died off. Maybe they're a little craftier than we give them credit for, even cats and bears and whatever, and maybe they are still around us, and they're just tucked away, and they're just more like, you know what? We know what you do if you see us, so we're going to go incognito.
Even in my early 20s, at a pond in Gallia County, I saw something coming down the woods at me, and I thought at first it was a groundhog. I got looking, is that a skunk? What is it? It was a full-on badger. full-on adult-looking badger stopped from here to that screen from me and stared at me.
And that's vicious
really cool.
little things, too. You don't want to get that thing's way.
Yeah, I don't need to get on the wrong side of that critter, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're unforgiving.
Yeah, it's not like the beagle where I want him on my lap. But I had now in Justin and Jay's neck of the woods, they claim there's a bigger population of badger. It's a rare thing in Ohio, but Northwest Ohio, they claim that there are some badger.
Yeah,
I'd love to photograph one.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fox back there. I mean, same habitat as a
That's just
badger.
interesting. I was wanting to ask too, where you live, is there any documented or known about cave structures underground, like any pathways, passageways?
Not far in the Hocking Hills region. Yes.
Okay.
There are some people. There have been some caves even around me. There's one that we'll go to soon. It's more of a rock overhang. If you've ever been to Ash Cave in the Hocking Hills area,
Perfect area. Yeah.
It's a smaller version of it. It's in Wayne National Forest, and it's not on their maps. I was just told about it, and I found it.
Oh, cool.
Just this beautiful little rock overhang, so called a cave. There is another little overhang on Sims Creek where I've had experiences that in some early settlers, there was a woman that had died there in that rock overhang from an illness, and they claim you can hear her screams and things. I've never have.
Gotcha.
But yeah, when it comes to the underground type of things, no, not particularly.
Okay.
I've heard. Like the one experience I had was in the Hocking Hills region. I got invited to a private nature preserve years ago.
Oh, cool.
We're walking through just a crevice in the rocks to get up to a point on this rock overhang. Beautiful country, and you could feel the ground, a vibration. You could hear a sound. What? And the person that worked for the state that was taking us on this said it's underground water. There's enough water flow that you can feel the vibration and you can actually hear a rumble.
That's that aquifer down there.
Yeah.
Huge. That thing is massive. We have one of the largest aquifers under the ground in Ohio that takes up that whole Pomeroy up to Serpent Mound through where you live. Yeah. We've been to Pomeroy.
I get it. It's kind of blowing my mind that there's the way I'm thinking of it is it kind of, this is going to sound so stupid, but the layers to where we're living in the air above us, the ground we're on, and below us, like, again, unless you're a spelunker and you go into caves, you don't think about it. You don't realize it unless you know underground aquifers, unless I saw something the other day that talked about why there's no bridges across the Amazon River. Because that river swells so big when it floods, and also there's another river under the Amazon River. I'm like, what? Yeah. So it's just our perception. As much as we are good at above ground and maybe seeing up here, maybe we're just not that aware of how things are really working right now.
Really, and when I was in northern Ohio that time doing work, a coyote running through a picked soybean field. And then it just, poof, it was gone.
Say what?
And then it came up about 50 or 75 yards on down. And there are cave structures up in that area.
So you saw this coyote.
Yeah.
How did it disappear? Did it look like it ran behind something?
It just went down there just like it went into a cavern, a tunnel, an opening,
Okay. I thought you meant it like...
No,
like
it didn't.
Dematerialized.
No, it didn't dematerialize.
I'm like Skinwalker?
You could just see it go down in.
Okay.
And then up in that area, there are a lot of underground structures up there. And then it popped up at a run. It came up out and took off running.
Those tunnels.
It's like, what?
Wow.
Years and years ago, as a forklift mechanic, I went to Cleveland several times for school, and they talked about, and they never got us out there. I wanted to go so bad. Salt mines underneath of Lake Erie.
Oh yeah.
God.
Oh yeah.
That would be so cool.
That would be incredible.
Copper mines, too.
I mean, they had 777 rock trucks, things we had to strip mines back in the day when I worked on heavy equipment. Big loaders and things under Lake Erie.
Oh,
yeah,
massive.
It was a salt sea.
Yeah.
The whole area was a sea.
Yeah.
like Serpent Mountain, that whole area.
Yeah, you're talking about the inside of how grandiose these are and how massive these structures are. It's like from floor to ceiling, we're talking a couple 100 feet, not like 10 feet. We're talking like it's a city.
See pictures and video, doesn't even look real.
Right.
It's incredible.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Wow, that would be a fantastic opportunity.
Now, down below us in Charleston, West Virginia, there is a salt company down there. I think it's Dickens Salt Company. And they pump water down into the earth, 300 feet, however far it is, into an ancient seabed, and that they've made a living from this.
Pulls the salt up.
Pulled up, and they dry it out into crystals.
Yep.
And it's like, it makes you ponder about the earth a lot and how things change. My same uncle Chuck, that was the Methodist preacher, when he got into his 70s, and he was a mechanic and a machinist. He drilled water wells for a living at one time. I helped him on a vehicle when his health started failing. And at lunch, my Aunt Ann fixed her lunch, and we got done. He said, TJ, here's a little monthly newsletter. Take a look at this. He never preached religion to me ever. He was just a wonderful soul. And in this, they had a gentleman in West Virginia, had a picture of him holding a big lump of coal at a coal mine, and it had an Egyptian artifact embedded in the coal.
Wow. Whoa.
And the Methodists were pondering the literature on the Great Flood. How did that get into the mountains of West Virginia?
What? Never heard about that one.
And it's supposed to be however many millions of years old, or however, for coal to form.
Well,
insert
the right. If the continents were together, however many millions, I'm a big fan of this topic because I'm a big Michael Cremo fan and out of date artifacts. But like again,
Cremo comment
popping open that coal, or whether it's a gold mine in California when they go down into it and they go further and they're like, we're finding things that don't make sense.
Like
where did that come from?
Cast iron kettles and stuff like that are embedded in granite.
It's
that's weird.
To your point, even like I was going to say like a car. If you originally bought it and it was white, and then you painted it blue, and then you painted it green and whatever. Like when we went and saw the Cadillac Ranch out in Amarillo, Texas, right? Yeah. You see how much paint layers on there, and you're like, you get this historical view. It's much the same as looking at rock strata or whatever. But again, until we kind of get those slices, we really don't think about the fact of how many layers have piled up over the earth over time, and how deep does it go? And if we keep digging down, I'm convinced we're going to keep finding stuff the more we dig.
Yeah. And the more we dig, you talk about plate tectonics.
Yeah.
And the earth cleaning itself up.
Yeah.
Here's
folding it in. What have we lost?
Look at what we've lost with glaciers.
Yeah.
Even right here in the state of Ohio and North America.
Yeah.
Glaciers, it was
a push broom.
Yep. Cleaned it up.
Yep.
Right.
You don't know. And there's civilizations and things that's come and gone that we're not aware of. Yeah, I think we'll continue finding lots of incredible things.
Yeah, I feel the same.
And but that was just something my Uncle Chuck, and I thought, well, isn't that cool? That was years ago. I mean, he's been gone for a lot of years.
That's so neat.
And it really, when you look at back in my days of working on forklifts for a living, you go out in the middle of a cornfield in Scioto County, and there is a sand and gravel pit. And you go out there to work on a piece of equipment, and they're bringing up this tumbled rock. It's like, I call it river rock. And it was all from the glaciers, runoff from the glaciers.
Oh, yeah.
These enormous deposits of sand and gravel.
Yep.
It's like, I want to talk to the geologists that found that. That's all for me. That's fascinating.
Like Moraine, Ohio.
You should go check out our friend's mound in his backyard that he built. Temple of Tolerance, built all from glacier stones, basically, and collected over decades, and then ranged
Jim Bowser. You ever come in contact or heard about Jim Bowser? He just passed away this summer, actually, when we were out at Bonnaroo. But he's kind of a mentor of ours. But over, 20, 21 years, he built an entire temple structure in his backyard in Wapak, Ohio.
Home of Neil Armstrong. Yeah. But Jim Bowser is just as well equally known.
That's awesome. Well, and we talk about the sand and gravel deposits. I had a friend that gave a presentation one Friday evening at Camp Oteokwa. He worked for the state at the time. I got a call from a friend in the Nelsonville area at a sand and gravel pit. Said, we got something to come up that's different. And he went over, and it was a mastodon tooth.
Shut
Whoa.
up.
Yep. And he showed us, and
Holy hell.
had it right there. Got to sit and hold it. It's just
Wow.
and he had a friend that just called him, hey, you better come over. There's something that came up over here in the gravel pit that's different.
Did they find more like that? Was that the one-off?
It may be one-off. I'm not certain. Haven't talked to him about that for a lot of years, so I don't know.
Well, the boneyard that's kind of real famous right now, that's up in Alaska. Alaska's been on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about this deposit. It's like 2 or 3 acres where they're just finding mastodon bones, full skeletons, all these creatures mixed up, and it's a gravel pit, basically. It's a sand and gravel pit. It just reminds me of that.
Well, and even on the way back from our Knoxville trip by my brothers in northern Kentucky is Big Bone Lick State Park. Yeah. And these incredible remains that somebody found them along the line, and I think there were tar pits involved in some of that.
Yeah.
Probably.
I was at a spot, I can't remember where it's at, if it's in South Dakota or Wyoming or Montana. My wife and I were out there a couple years ago, but it's a building site that's created over a site where mastodons were getting hit into these mud pits. And they basically accumulated in strong numbers. You can walk around this entire thing and look at the dig and then walk down. They basically preserved it, and they still work on it while you're in there. But you can see in the mud where the mastodons were stepping and their feet were getting caught in the muck. And as they would pull them up, they would make these certain swoops in the mud. Because it just, again, is it tar pits? Is it loose, gravelly sand of how they pile up? But that boneyard one, I think, in Alaska is a little more strange. Is that like they think it's more like there's purposeful or
connections
there's
to
something
to the flood? Like there had to be a bunch of flood waters that came in and
pushed it all there.
It's all in one area. Like a couple acres. So, you got Randall Carlson kind of weighing in on some of that stuff, but they've given bones to the Smithsonian Institute and different museums and stuff like that, and they actually found out that a lot of the bones that they sent them were in the bottom of the Hudson River. Somebody had found them. So he completely stopped sending stuff to universities and organizations because
they're just throwing them away.
They were tossing them in the river. That's a true story. That's real.
Well, we've heard similar accounts like that of things and items and artifacts kind of being
this is
less than properly handled, or hey, put this and store it away. Again, it's the joke of this, Indiana Jones, where they box everything up and mark it important and just put it in a warehouse.
Serpent Mound. They have thousands.
That'd be hopeful if they did that well with holding on to that stuff.
You'll never see when they put in that.
Well, that's what I was referencing.
Yeah, they put in the water line for the bathrooms, and they dug that trench. They pulled thousands of artifacts out of there, sitting in a box. The only reason we know about it is because some master's student wrote a paper about it. And then one of the professors kind of had to give a line or two about it, but that's the only reason that anybody's. And she's sitting there going, "Why am I the one researching this? I'm a history." Well,
there's a lot of gray matter out there. Which is
even in my neck of the woods on the Ohio River. When they did years ago, they did at Eureka locks and dams. Then the Robert C. Locks and Dams project. Then they expanded that. And I've never been there. Every time I've gone over, it wasn't open like a visitor center. That during that dirt work that they were doing to expand this dam system in the locks, they had Native American remains. They had mastodon teeth. They had all these different ancient artifacts that they had on display. And I can't find the time that it's ever open. I suppose it's still there.
Interesting.
I don't know. And a state official once told me that when the French settled the area, started in, let's say, Marietta area, coming downstream on the Ohio River, every tributary coming into the Ohio River, they put a lead plate with coordinates on it. And so now with the dam system, the water level's higher. I think there's actually one of those lead plates on display in Marietta Museum.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Marietta's fascinating. The earthwork structure they had that was on the Scioto, and then the other side of the Ohio River where it confluenced, there was this beautiful circular henges and half moon henges, and it's that area is so cool. Portsmouth, same thing. Marietta. TJ, you have absolutely blown our minds. I mean, we've talked about, what do we got? Let's do the checklist. We got Sasquatch, we got spirits, we've got
scrambled, smothered, and covered. Like,
Now, how about the one thing I'll add to that? I
was going to ask you, because you had told me a story on the more extraterrestrial side. But if you want to go ahead with what we can hop in it.
I was at the cabin, and I had woken up. I was laying in bed, and the best way to describe it, I couldn't move. Number one. Call it sleep paralysis, whatever you want.
Sure.
But I was floated up.
Oh, boy.
And all I could see was bright light that I went into. Don't remember anything else. And then kaplunk. It's like I just dropped back down in bed. It's like, what in the world just happened? And there were 3 in my right thigh. 3 bloody spots. My thigh was sore like I'd done 1,000 squats.
Took a little biopsy, did they?
And it was 3 bloody spots in the form of a triangle in my top of my thigh. I took my metal detector, and I went over, and I thought, well, let's see if there's an implant.
Sure.
And there was nothing. I didn't get a bleep or nothing. And then it lasted for, the soreness went away in about a week.
Right, but it sounds like almost like a core or a punch biopsy, but you get 3 samples real quick. We do it with a single needle, and we make passes over and over, but if you want to get it done quicker and just...
And there was a time that several years ago, I was asleep one night, and the same type of thing. I was floating out of the room into a white light, and I don't remember anything other than falling back into bed, and was out of the blanket, completely out of the blanket, cold, like, well, I better get up and use the bathroom. The person I was with at the time, the gal, she's over here snoring, asleep. I get up just to walk in to use the bathroom, let's say 6 years ago, whatever it's been. She starts screaming in her sleep, the grays, the grays, the grays, and doesn't remember any of it.
What?
We weren't talking about aliens or anything. The gray started screaming about the grays. And then here, after that relationship fizzled, then I was all on my own there at the cabin when I had those puncture wounds into my leg.
Was there anything about your right leg at the time that you had issues, pains, this,
Not
that?
really. I ache. I'm an old mechanic. So
but nothing significant, no torn this or that, or real old injury linger. Okay.
No.
Because I've heard stories sometimes of people having, say, a bum knee, a bad ankle, a whatever. Next thing you know, it's better, it's fixed, or even like you said with, I'm going to scan it for an implant. I know someone personally that thinks that what they had basically was an implant that they found years ago. So
I've got a friend right now, and their sinus cavity is an implant. They call it an implant, and they said I've seen the X-ray, and the doctors won't touch it because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I know somebody like that.
Now you've got me thinking about all the airport scanners. Maybe they do that scan to see how many people have implants instead of really worrying if you're carrying a bomb in your shoe. Seriously.
TSA's on
seriously, 23andMe, what are they looking for? Well, I mean, really, that's gone private now, right? Like some of those certain weird things of like bloodlines and DNA and gene.
They're looking for people's bloodlines.
And I have seen a daylight hours, a complete tic-tac looking craft. I have seen that just about 5 miles away. Just as plain as day. It's just like, what? I'm up one evening above the cabin taking evening pictures, had my chair set up, beautiful sunsets. And I'm sitting there, and I could see something, but I wasn't quite sure what it was in the sky above the cabin, a little bit past it. And I just started taking random pictures. And when I came home, got my reading glasses on so I can have some eyeballs, and brought it up, and it's completely circular row of lights with a little beam of light connecting the balls of light. You might, and big. I mean, just there was a craft. There's a craft, plain and simple.
Wow.
And nothing is unlike anything I'd ever seen. My neighbor just down from me said, you need to come up and talk to me and my brother sometime at the garage. He's retired now, got some old hot rods, got a neat old garage. And he told me a story about his grandmother at their home place back in, I don't know if it was the 60s or 50s or when it was, just a couple miles away, that out her window she saw a craft above her pond and a light beam coming straight into her pond. And he said, my brother's got one, wants to talk to you about Bigfoot things. So that's the other thing is I'll get people, you just be wearing a T-shirt, have a Bigfoot, Mothman, whatever,
Put the vibe out.
Yeah, and people will come up sometimes and start talking to you about things.
Oh, sure.
And a couple college professors I worked with, same thing, that had Bigfoot experiences in their life. And the one gentleman saw this in 1971 or 72 and had never told a soul until there maybe 6 years ago. And so I was wearing a T-shirt or a hoodie or something. So we started talking. So just very credible, regular Joe people.
Yeah.
Doctorate degree, master's degree people that are just, they don't have any need to they're not benefiting from it anyway.
That's what I always say. How many people don't talk about it?
We talk about that a lot.
And even beyond that, there's so many levels of why not to talk about it. That's one of them. The other one is it freaks you out, or you don't know what to do with it, or you don't know anybody else that you can corroborate with, so you're kind of stuck with it yourself until maybe somebody like yourself has the shirt on that gives that beacon, and you go, I got to talk to this guy, or we got to, collaborate in some way. And
when I've told Lisa, I said, you just wait. I said that there's more on the way, because now with her Native American blood, that bloodline, and Terry invited her to come down to their house to go to indoor sweat lodge sometime.
Oh, cool. I still need to do that. They take them up on that.
I'm telling you, there's more. I think there's more experiences and connections on the way.
Yeah, and I hope so.
I really do.
Well, you've opened yourself up over the years to meet Lisa. Seems amazing. I mean, you guys seem like you're
it's like it was just
connected,
and we weren't. Neither one of us was looking.
Yeah,
it happened.
That's how it works.
It happened.
But you're on the path. You're on that path, though, TJ. That's what I always say. Like people that have these experiences or synchronicities, and when you're not on that path, it feels like those things aren't really in front of you. They're not happening.
They really aren't. And when you're with if you're around somebody or with somebody that's very, very negative for several years, call a person negative Nancy, whatever you want to do, a sour person, a wet sandwich, you might say.
Wet sandwich.
And we've had, those terms were from myself and a couple of people we work with, it's just, it's bad, and it's tough to have experiences when you've got that around you. It really is.
Yeah.
You take like-minded individuals and you're around, and you guys are more than welcome to come to the cabin 24/7 anytime.
Yeah.
As like-minded individuals around, you have a greater chance of having things happen.
Yeah.
Well, you sent me your address, so guess what? We're
and you've been there. So.
I was already going to say, like, if you see what looks like a Sasquatch, it might be me.
Yeah.
Here's the deal,
Grow
everyone.
my beard out.
I came down to hang out at TJ's cabin the night before Mothman. I'm around there for Mothman Festival. We're going to go. I'm going to shoot some stuff. We had a production. I wanted to have a good time and have fun. I walked away from that weekend. The biggest takeaway was hanging out with you at your cabin.
Well, that's awesome.
Over the Mothman. And I had a blast at the Mothman Festival and shot a bunch and helped Justin and Jay shoot some stuff. And I shot a bunch of stuff and we had a great time. But the whole day at Mothman, I'm just thinking about you and the cabin. Because
and that's awesome. I mean, it
was
really,
wild.
it's just, it's a wonderful feeling when you say that.
Yeah, man.
Because I've had the people, he's just making up stories just about.
I can
don't
see it in
benefit
your
from
eyes.
this. We go to work every day. We're just to pay our bills and get by and look. And
you don't give off that vibe of like you're going out doing this, proselytizing your Sasquatch and UFO and bizarre stories to it's. Again, I think you're here doing this because you know that this is a place that we want to talk about, that really get into the meat of it.
When Mike was there, it was awesome because and I felt that with him. Yeah. Was that it was just, here's another console that I can connect with.
Absolutely.
And we just recently, Lisa had never been to the TNT area at Point Pleasant.
Oh, boy.
So we go out and first time ever in one of the igloos, one of the bunkers.
Oh, boy.
And I mean, the echoes when you tap your foot on the floor and you hear that sound, I thought, man, this might be a cool place to bring a cot and hang out.
I never
and
had
sleep.
that thought.
I really did. I want to go.
The Mothman B&B.
Yeah,
At the TNT.
B&B.
The TNT B&B.
It's kind of damp and smelly, but you know.
Oh, it's
But it was, man. There's a feel to that place.
I did a big long ohm before we started the show. I did that in the TNT area, and I did a ohm, and it was intense.
Yeah.
Because all of it's coming around that dome makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
You know.
And then you take somebody. I know the area a little bit. A little bit. But the two people that know it like the back of their hand are the Frick brothers. Did you ever meet?
I didn't, but I heard a lot about them when I was there.
Well, the Fricks.
They have the spots. They have the hot spots, apparently, that they keep close to the vest.
We had Frick spend the night recently at the cabin.
Oh, boy.
They came in. And just wonderful, wonderful people.
Nice.
You know, and knowledgeable about that as much as anybody out there.
Yeah.
And so they'll be back. The Fricks will be back to the cabin, you know. And because that's the thing about the cabin where it sits, I'm just 30 or 35 minutes from Point Pleasant.
Yeah.
So this whole area, you know, there's so much incredible things.
During the height of the Mothman stuff, are you aware of where you're at now being anything of importance during that?
There were sightings around there.
Yeah, when I was,
in Ohio.
my dad had a barber shop at the time in Rio Grande, which was about 15 to 18 minutes away from Point Pleasant.
Yep.
Sure.
Home of Bob Evans Farms.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The bridge went down December 15th, 1967, about 5 o'clock in the evening. And the word spread like that. My mom wouldn't let me, my little brother, and other women wouldn't let their kids out of the house because they thought the Mothman would get us. It's like,
holy
we
cow.
didn't know what it was. We're just little kids. No, you're not going outside at night. I don't know how long it lasted.
Wow.
But
the sightings started in Ohio.
You know, and so the word spread very quickly when I was a little kid. I remember that vividly.
Yeah.
Didn't know till later that I had an uncle that passed, and it was at his funeral. He was on the West Virginia National Guard at the time and helped to recover a body.
Oh, goodness.
A gentleman at a tire shop that was a school teacher at Point Pleasant at the time. He said a short period of time, a week or two before the bridge collapsed, the concrete from the pavement up to the bridge, it raised about that much. And people were, because he did tire work on the side. And
people were having messed up tires.
They were busting tires and bending wheels. They contacted the Department of Transportation, blah, blah, blah.
Shut up.
But that area raised up and people were damaging tires and wheels a short time, a week or two before the bridge actually collapsed.
Holy cow.
And
you think it was something seismic or like...
Well, just structurally, the bridge wasn't...
Plate was moving, something
with
Don't they know what caused it to fail? Wasn't it... I thought it was something...
An eye-bar
right.
Type of failure.
Right.
And when there was a man, I've got his book at the house, I can't remember his name, wrote a book, and there was a library presentation, Gal Police, and I got his book then, and he talked about the Silver Bridge and a lot of its history. Dr. Holzer was the one that actually got it started in the state to get the funding up to build the Silver Bridge. They were taking him over in a rowboat from Ohio to Point Pleasant to deliver babies and doctor people.
Oh, he's like, this doesn't work out in a pinch.
Yeah, and so he got it started. So it was cool, that book that was out about the history of the Silver Bridge. And that they actually had gone in and they were going to do a cable type of suspension bridge, but they came back and the powers that be, whoever was on the board or whatever of the construction locally, said, "Can you do it cheaper?"
Oh, of course.
And they went with eye-bar construction.
I mean, that's always the joke about when it was like, if you're an astronaut on a rocket, did you ever think that at every turn the lowest bidder won the contract?
Yeah.
Of what you're riding into outer space?
Yeah, well, you look at their 1986 space shuttle blew up in front of us over and over.
Yeah, I know. God.
And
so many school kids were traumatized by watching that in class.
But, Mothman-wise, I've never seen anything in the TNT area when I've gone over to take photographs of wildlife or the swamp or whatever it is.
Toxic sludge swamp.
Toxic sludge. But, man, I'm telling you, the Ohio River is one of the most polluted rivers in the country anyway.
Yeah.
everything from the Kanawha River that dumps into Point Pleasant comes from Nitro, West Virginia, Chemical Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
And I mean, there's been a lot of bad things dumped in the river for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Does that ever make you wonder sometimes, are we making some of these exo creatures, these cryptids? Are we...
I tell you, I caught a catfish below the dam at Eureka when I was a kid one time, come out, and it had growths all over it. It had not a double head, but it had knots all over its entire body. About a 3-pound little catfish.
That makes me feel terrible for the catfish, for you, for...
Yeah, don't eat anything in the Ohio River.
No,
baby.
Or out of the Ohio
Mr.
River.
E talked to us about that. He's like, you don't want to be swimming in that. You were like, when we visited your house, he's like, yeah, you don't ever want to swim in the Ohio River. You're like, well, we did all the time when we were kids.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, well, no wonder.
Look how tall you are.
Oh, yeah. I'd be at the shop, the maintenance shop, had about 12 of us. And in the wintertime, people would be getting the flu and sick, and I wouldn't. And they said, well, TJ, why aren't you getting sick? I said, well, Raccoon Creek, that's right there, was orange when I was a kid, growing up for years because sulfur from the runoff from the coal mines.
Sure.
Yeah.
I said, we swam in sulfur water as a kid. I said, I might not get the flu. I might grow a tumor the size of a canned ham.
Right.
But I said we might. But really, we swam in sulfur water. Swim it. You didn't want to touch the bottom when you were swimming because it would stir up on you. You come home smelling like rotten eggs.
Oh,
well,
wow.
I mean, the creek that we were playing around in as kids wasn't good.
Our creek was not good.
And I waded through that stuff, and I don't even want to know how much gray water was coming into that and whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Farm
but
stuff.
to your point, you want to talk about being fairly healthy as a horse.
Yeah.
I don't really get colds or this or that really...
Yeah.
Not often.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of also, I was rolling around in the dirt as a kid pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the time.
But the water at the cabin... Now, there's a pump in the crawl space where they originally got it from a spring up above, had a pump house.
Yeah.
But now for years, it comes from Gary Rural Water, and it brings water out of the Ohio River.
Yeah.
They filter and they purify Ohio River water is what we got at the cabin. And it's no wonder so many people my age with dropping over from aneurysms, strokes, and cancer.
Water's important.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
like 70% water.
Oh, yeah. And so we try to live healthier now, but
Yeah.
I've had 60 years of being around this. And it's like that was one reason I really wanted to get out and tell my stories, too.
Yeah.
You don't know. Tell people you're not guaranteed the next heartbeat.
Absolutely.
You better enjoy it. The movie is Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
The one statement in there, get busy living or get busy dying.
I love that line.
Yep.
And that's how we feel.
You're either doing it or you're not.
Yep. And it's tough sometimes. But, there's a lot in that area. One of the most contaminated, when you're down, I'll drive you past one of the most contaminated sites that was in the state of Ohio when it comes to the ground. The power companies used to dump their transformers there.
No.
And
Nice.
all the chemicals and bad things that leaked out of transformers for years. They dug, and it's a high fence now, solar power panels to monitor it. And that's within, as a crow flies, that's within about a quarter of a mile of Gallia Rural Water. Get our water.
That's not good.
Yay.
Man. How do they get away with, the Ohio EPA is legitimately one of the most corrupt organizations in the country.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it really wouldn't.
I mean, the stuff they were trying to do with the defunct plutonium factory that was in Pike County, trying to make that into a toxic waste dump for other people to bring their toxic waste.
Yeah, we've got
it would have affected the groundwater, and they lied.
I mean, en route to Serpent Mound is the Piketon Uranium Enrichment Plant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they were going to make into a toxic waste
interesting.
dump.
Yeah.
They were going to fold all that whole plant in, then ship other people's toxic waste and dump it there. But they had found earthworks. The bedrock had so many cracks in it. They paid a company that said, "Oh, there's no cracks in the bedrock."
Yeah.
They went and hired.
That's the problem. It's
hired
all paid
a
off.
group from outside of Philadelphia that came and did all the geography and geology. And there's cracks everywhere in the bedrock. If you put this here, it's going to leak into the Scioto, then the Ohio, then the Mississippi, and then the Gulf of Mexico, and we will have a completely polluted ecosystem in North America.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
I would say there's very few places that aren't polluted at this point anymore. You get up into Canada, Alaska, up to the places where there's actually just not people.
Yeah.
Then maybe you got a fighting chance. But anywhere where we are,
well, the Big Walnut, Mr. E sent me and my kids to the Big Walnut Creek because that's where he had done a bunch of work and testing when he was working for when he was a biologist. And I said, because me and Stoner helped Justin and Jay film some stuff by the Hoover Dam. He's like, you can go swimming in this. It's very clean. Mm-hmm. So we have the Big Walnut and what's the one that's kind of in that area? But there's a few rivers in Ohio, according to Mr. E, that are really clean and good.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't expect that.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and Justin will tell you about some of the surveys he did back in the day on the Ohio River.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There are pockets of the bottom of that river that is terrible.
Yeah.
When it comes to radioactivity.
Mm-hmm.
There's
It makes sense. It's heavy metals. It goes right to the bottom, you know.
It's not good.
But
wow, TJ, this has been unbelievable.
This has been awesome. It really has been. I've really enjoyed this, and just like you said, sometimes memories stir up. He's speaking about things stirs up other memories. So
yeah,
come on to the cabin. We'll talk about more things.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I can't wait. Anything else you want to leave us with? I love your message of positivity and, really trying to create that.
Yep. That would be the thing would be incredible if I dropped over dead today would be for people, somebody heard about the power of positivity and the power of prayer, no matter what your beliefs. I'm not concerned if a person is Baptist, Buddhist, what you are doesn't matter to me, but being kind and thoughtful of other people, and that would be a good message to leave with. It's just positivity, power of prayer, and keep your faith, because I'm telling you, the whole world's going. We've got a lot of terrible things going on in the world.
I know, we
really do, and so I truly believe people that. If you're not a Christian, I'm not trying to draw you to one side or another, but it falls into the category, if you're not, it couldn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't hurt to have a little bit of prayer. I mentioned earlier about Native Americans praying before they were even exposed to Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
They took care of this earth, and the earth took care of them.
Yeah.
And
it's a respect.
Yep. A little bit of respect. And so it's been awesome, been an honor to be here, been fun.
Come back anytime.
It's been an honor to have you. TJ, let everybody know where they can find you. And you're on Instagram, you're on
and,
great photography.
Appalachian Giant on Instagram, and I'll post it. At one time I did 3 years with just photography, mainly wildlife photography.
Yeah, it's great.
And I don't have a business doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I will probably start back of putting some things in some shops, because the past year especially got some incredible wildlife pictures. Appalachian Giant on Instagram, TJ Owens on Facebook. There was an old Facebook account that when my phone almost caught on fire in my pocket, it went black screen. I couldn't remember Facebook passwords. I couldn't get back, so I had to create a new account. And so, TJ Owens on, and you'll see me in an art gallery posing. I'm not sure what critter picture I've got as my cover picture, but that's where you can find me. And I don't know anything about TikTok or Twitter, so I don't do TikTok. So you can't find me there.
Yeah.
Hey, me either, brother. Me either. Wow. Unbelievable. TJ Owens, the Appalachian Giant, everybody. It's been an honor.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I love talking about that.
That was fun.
Great stuff.
That was fun.
And the only thing to make it better, it was awesome. You've got a beagle here. It's just, what more do you want? I got to pet it once. It came up once. But it's been an absolute pleasure and honor, and I thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And thank all of you out there. We appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. This has been awesome. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Keep sharing. If you like this episode, share it with your friends. Facebook, X, Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're all over the place. Reach out to us. DM us. I'm Mikey. This is Bub. And we got Stoner and Master Control. Peace, love, and chicken grease. We are out.
Later, guys.